finally spoke on the issue of the Gitmo 2, the Yemenis that have been brought into the country from Guantanamo Bay by the United States of America, an agreement that has received a lot of unpleasant commentary by Ghanaians about the discretion exercised by authority. The President, the Interior Ministry, the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and all of that. And you remember the issues that have also come up as a result, where the Foreign Affairs Minister suggests that at a point in time, she didn't have the full facts because the matter became a national security issue, and so Foreign Affairs was excluded. The Minister, Interior Minister, then, Mark Woyongo, also suggested that he didn't have the full facts about the development. And some believe that it is part of the reason he has been jettisoned in the reshuffle. Now, two people have gone to court and sued. A lot of matters have also come up as a result. There are criticisms of government persons who have sought to insult members of the clergy for standing up against this and all. Now, let's look at it. Bernard, I've heard you suggest that this was a wrong move. Have you had enough information to change your view on Ghana's acceptance of the Gitmo 2 on humanitarian grounds?
First and foremost, my decision was based on America's posturing and the fact that America, in my view, continues to be the #1 terrorist nation in this world, and that terrorism is a word that America has decided to use on people or nations that are opposed to the acts that America actually engages in. If you take the ANC, it was considered as an outlandish terrorist group in South Africa, and yet they were a freedom fighting group.
Is this not really overstretching when we use the ANC as an example?
What about Hamas, which is a political party in Palestine that won elections legitimately? America insisted that elections should be conducted. Elections were conducted. Fatah did not win. Hamas won. America would not allow Hamas to rule because they consider Hamas as, quote, a terrorist political party. Okay? The Taliban, for instance, is a political party in Afghanistan, and America will not allow it. Used to be the ruling party. So America described the Taliban as terrorists, and therefore, when you hear about Taliban, it's now associated with the American description of terrorists. And yet this is a formidable political party that used to be in government that was overthrown by the machinations of the United States of America. And so for me, it is not what America said.
Is it not the case that the excesses of the Taliban was more than the ideals that it stood for?
Who appointed the United States of America as the world's policeman and the person to determine who is a terrorist and who is not a terrorist?
When they were maiming and killing, which is America.
When Osei Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was managing Ghana, America came here and torpedoed him. They went and connived and torpedoed Patrice Lumumba. They went and supported NATO to overtake Gaddafi. They went to Iraq and said they were looking for weapons of mass destruction. They did not find even a bread knife in the course of that.
To your point.
And then they described Saddam Hussein in so many terms, and then they had to kill him. So I am saying that the posturing of America in all these things, then it is difficult for you that even having described somebody like Mandela as a terrorist, even when he was president, then suddenly he is now the one that America has to hail. And America says that you are today, and tomorrow they decide that you are not. The world accepts you. We accepted Mandela that he was no more a terrorist. Today, America says that the Guantanamo Bay detainees were not terrorists, and that is why they are releasing them, or they want to close down Guantanamo Bay. But you know the history of our country. I have said this because I think that America does not have any local standing to continue to do what they are doing in the world, and that the existence of Guantanamo Bay itself is a scar on the conscience of humanity. That this is a place anybody is just taking something. If you speak harshly against the United States of America, they can pick you and take you to Guantanamo Bay.
No, they cannot.
Where you will not be tried.
No, they cannot.
They will pick you. You don't know where they will pick you up because you have spoken harshly against them. And this is what they are doing. And when they take you to Guantanamo Bay, no law is applied. We have our minister who is a lawyer, used to be my lawyer anyway. You understand? He knows that in Guantanamo, no law is applied. And then you are discredited. You are said to be a terrorist and what have you. But you know, when you come back home, to be honest and fair, Ghana has accepted so many people in different forms, some of whom would have been described as terrorists. Under the First Republic, we accepted the freedom fighters, some of whom were described as terrorists. You understand? They came under the First Republic and then they worked. Under Rawlings, we went all the way to Liberia. We accepted warlords and accepted people. Some of them came to Bujumbura. They were terrorizing people in Bujumbura. They owned land in Bujumbura, in our own country. We accepted them into our own country for what we call the humanitarian aspect of the Ghanaian. When Sierra Leone had their difficulties under President Kufuor, we brought some people here as well. Recently, when Gbagbo and his countrymen had the difficulties, President Mills accepted some of them. The youth leader eventually had to be given out to go for trial in Cote d'Ivoire. And so it appears that Ghana, over the period, we have accepted people that have suffered or are in danger of something into our country. And therefore, when it comes to this point, and President Mahama also accepts, it beats my imagination that is generating the amount of heat. My point is that it is America's posturing that is a problem for me. And that when America is involved in anything, I am suspicious about it, and I cannot take America's handshake for granted. Because when they give you a handshake, you should be checking what is at their back. If they are giving a hug, just check whether they are not holding a knife at you. And so it is important to look at this as to whether we have violated the act. As I listen to Nana Akufo-Addo, I think that is an issue for the courts to determine. But what is important is that the way it was explained by Nana Akufo-Addo, it means that the president has violently vitiated our oath that he swore. And under that circumstances, it means that the president should be going for impeachment. And I wonder whether indeed an act could have been violated and we'll just be sitting down because we should, because the president swore to protect the Constitution and the laws of Ghana. And therefore, if the president is undermining the laws of Ghana, it simply leads him towards impeachment. Is that what Nana Akufo-Addo is saying that the president has committed? I think on the contrary. I think that we have our reasons to accuse the government that these things needed to, but taking the record that over the years...
Particularly that the president announces to us, or we are made to understand, that we spent 1 year or more negotiating with the Americans to accept these people.
Yeah, so it is important for me in these particular matters that, look, a certain level of... And some people thought that Nana Akufo-Addo's silence possibly was helping until eventually he broke fire and decided to speak at the tomb of the late Alhaji bin Sali. And it was amazing, the venue that he chose to do so, you know. But I think that all in all, it is important that Ghana has a history of having accepted people from our First Republic of all varied backgrounds. Some of them are terrorists or are considered as terrorists, and yet we did not see the kind of backlash.
NDC communicators, particularly the Deputy General Secretary, Kokoa Idoho, has received some bashing from all shades of people, including Asa Nkrumah, who went public and gave some commentary on that, and that's been published by some of the websites as well, that his posture in attacking the Catholic bishops and the clergy who have, you know, stated their disagreement to this was wrong, because he sought to insult them by his choice of words.
Well, opinions are like noses. I also think that possibly sometimes our religious leaders are well placed to be able to use to get certain information and to get some understanding of issues. Okay? And they have done that in the past when they try to seek clarification. And in particular, when it is suggesting that those people, because they have an Islamic background, it means that they are of that. I think that is an indictment. It is an attack on the religion of Islam. I'm not a Muslim, but I think that to every extent you want to defend everybody's right to religion and what have you. To that extent, for a certain section of our society who believes in Christianity, to think that because these people are associated with Islam, then it must be characterized in that perspective, I think that was unfortunate. What is important in all this is that question that many people will ask is, where were the Christian Council, the Catholic bishops, and what have you, when we accepted freedom fighters in the First Republic? We accepted them under Rawlings. We accepted them.
Is it a good comparison to make?
I'm saying that where were they?
No, I'm asking, is it a good comparison to make?
I'm making my submission.
Okay.
And so when well to judge, you understand? So having done all this, I think that it is important, particularly when we have the National Peace Council, we have that all these groups meet, and formerly it used to be hosted at the Catholic Secretariat, and now I think that is hosted by my very respected Professor Asante. That, look, these people ought to find a way so as to reduce the religious tension that come about. And of course, we have Christians, and sometimes some of these Christians will go to the extreme and do things that are not tenable. We have Muslims, we have traditional believers, and if you take it to absurd levels, you will have the kind of difficulties that we have. And I think that we must measure. Maybe the language and choice of words, as we are saying, may be too harsh, but it is also important that our religious leaders must also sometimes just take a little bit time to do some of these things, to also check how it affects the sensibilities of other people and other believers in our society. If you do not do that, you get the displeasure of a certain group, and there will always be tension in our society. And I think that we should not engage in this religious bigotry that undermines social and national cohesion.
There are groups that are calling on him to apologize for the words he used on the bishops or the clergy because of their disagreement. What do you say? I do not want to repeat any of the things
I think that bad language must not be tolerated at any level. And if bad language is used, I would think that it's appropriate to be humble enough to come and say, look, my choice of words are unfortunate, but the content in which I want to say it remain. But the language that we use, all of us can slip in our choice of words, and it's important that we should be guided at a certain level of modesty, decorum in our language is important for our society to survive. And so I do not have any qualms whatsoever in those who are calling for him to apologize. Okay. I think that apology is a fair call.
Right. Nana, your flag bearer says this is outright illegality, and the president did not uphold the Constitution by doing this. Is that the end of it?
Well, thank you. Just a quick reaction to Bernard. This business about the Americans' definition of terrorist, and that today they say somebody is a terrorist, the next day the person is a freedom fighter, and so on. I think looking at it from one point of view is quite legitimate, because we've all witnessed situations where Nelson Mandela, for example, was described as a terrorist, even though we would agree that he's a freedom fighter and so on. So maybe going by America's definition without any other retrospection could be problematic. Now I can agree with Bernard on that score. But you see, Bernard, in this particular instance of the Guantanamo gentleman, the government of Ghana itself seems to agree with the Americans' definition that these people have been involved in some terrorism. The government of Ghana itself agrees. Because if the government of the NDC doesn't agree that there's some terrorism around these people, they wouldn't be putting them under quarantine in Ghana. You see, because what the government of the President Mahama has done is to literally transfer Guantanamo Bay to Ghana. Because as they've come here, they are still under detention. Are they not under detention? They don't have, they cannot work, they cannot travel, their freedoms are not absolute. So they are still under detention in Ghana. So what we have done in effect is to transfer Guantanamo Bay to Ghana, maybe in a lesser. But that's what we have done, because the people are still here under limitations and restrictions. So the government of Ghana itself, in its mind, agrees that there's something about these people, and that has led them to put them under these conditions. As to the law, it is very clear. The president has not told us under what law he is operating in bringing these people to this camp. The president has never been able to tell us.
It's a humanitarian gesture, and he's an executive president. He's able to take such decisions.
Which law?
Without recourse to you.
No, which law says that under humanitarian gesture, the president can take these decisions. Is it the immigration law?
Which law says
Is it the refugees law?
Which law says he cannot?
Yeah, but everything that the president has discretion. All his discretions are discretions that have to be exercised not against the laws of Ghana. If you take these people have come here under some terrorism, isn't it? They are not refugees fleeing like happened in Liberia or happened in Cote d'Ivoire, in which case you have to look at the refugees law. These people have come here under terrorism charges or even allegations. The right application is the terrorism law. It says that these people, the Director of Immigration has no power to admit anybody when there's a reasonable suspicion that those people have been involved in terrorism. It's very clear. And the government is admitting these people and imposing these restrictions on them. Itself is admitting that, yes, there is something about these people, so we cannot allow them to run around like ordinary Ghanaians.
They suggest to you there's something that overrides that law, and the president
what is it that overrides
has every right to go ahead.
No,
with
what the president is not about is about the laws of this country. I mean, if you are going to register a company, you are going to register Joy FM Multimedia, and the General says that you haven't satisfied the conditions, the president can come and say, well, they haven't satisfied the conditions, but I'm the president, so you go ahead and register them. The president is under the laws of Ghana. If he has to exercise discretion, those discretions should not be discretion that is forbidden by the laws. You see, so, and they haven't told us which law. It says humanitarian. What kind of humanitarian? Is he more humanitarian than the Americans? Or do we Ghanaians understand human rights more than the Americans?
Or more precisely on compassionate grounds, rather.
Are we more compassionate than the Americans? Are we?
We should be. We should be. Don't we want to be?
We've not terrorized any nation before.
Don't we want to be known as being more compassionate than the
but we've not terrorized any nation before in our history.
Oh, we are more. We understand, compassion more than the Americans. We understand human rights more than the Americans. How about their own country? If even the Americans, they don't understand human rights. Their own country. In Saudi Arabia, where they grew up, where these two gentlemen, where they grew up and went to school.
In America, Congress has passed a law that does not allow these gentlemen to be accepted in America.
Actually, Obama, with all his powers, had to go to the U.S. Parliament for approval, and it was rejected.
Right.
It was rejected, The president says that he doesn't need to go to Parliament because this is just an agreement. What agreements? Agreements have to go to Parliament. Article 75 of the Constitution says any treaties or agreements or conventions that the president enters to must be ratified by Parliament, isn't it? I think you have my brother has the Constitution here.
You have said exactly what it says, but
it's not an agreement.
Is that what you see? It's an international.
The law under which the president operated has not been told us. He said that he was compassionate. Under which law? So there's a case to be made. This thing that the president has done, even consultations, I heard him say that he's consulted widely over 2 years. What consultation? My good friend here, his boss, the then Minister for Interior, had said that many aspects of the matter that he wasn't briefed on, and he's the Minister for Interior.
Right.
The Foreign Minister too has made similar comments. Now, apart from these two people being senior members of cabinet, they are also members of the National Security Council. So if they have not been fully briefed, what it means is that cabinet itself was not fully briefed. The National Security Council was not fully briefed. So who did the president do those extensive consultations with for the last 1 year?
What also came out as far as the questions of consultation was concerned was that your flag bearer had been informed.
Well, I'm happy now they say informed, because initially they said they had been consulted. Actually, what I heard was that he had been consulted 6 months ago.
Hey,
now they say he's been informed. He's been informed,
so he is aware.
Which is good. Yes.
Okay.
He was briefed by an official from the American embassy on the 5th of January, 2016, not in June, July 2015. The idea was, we've consulted him, he's agreed long time ago. It is not true.
When they informed him, he accepted it?
They didn't ask for his approval. He's not in a position to approve. He's not in a position to say, oh, you want to bring these people, yes, I approve, or I disapprove. No. Position. The American official briefed him on the 5th of January that this is the agreement we have come with the government of Ghana and that we want your party's support.
So in what capacity then did they go to him?
Well, they thought that it would be good to have his party's support. So the man told them that, well, I'll speak to my party about it then.
Wow.
And on the 11th of January, at a steering committee meeting, he brought the matter up. And when the party, when we were all discussing, we thought that it wasn't worth our support. And a statement was issued. And the next day, he met the American official and told them, this is my party's decision. So the impression that he had been consulted was 6 months earlier, and so he was in the know, well, totally, outright lies. Completely out. But you see, this is a matter of course. I'm saying that, Samson, the Interior Minister said he wasn't fully briefed. The Minister for Foreign Affairs said he wasn't fully briefed. I understand even the Attorney General is making similar.
The Attorney General has denied ever representing such to anybody.
Okay. But the Minister for Interior has made such comments. So, who did the President do the wild consultations he claimed he has done in the last one? Was it with Akufo-Addo? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And mind you, Samson, if you've been doing consultations in 2 years, how come Ghanaians were told after the people have arrived into this country? How come? How come Ghanaians were told only after the news had broken in America?
You suspect we're never going to be told, right?
Absolutely. We're never going to be told. The people are going to live within us. And yet the story about them coming within us...
You think the government will be so naive to think that this information could have been kept secret?
But how come they didn't tell us until the story
broke in
America?
I was asking what next? Nanado has complained about it.
What next? Once
complaining
the president
and also hearing well, I must say, some of those party people who throw respect to the dogs, instead of simply disagreeing with the president, you hear them use absolute insults.
Unsavory words.
I think it's not good.
Which party people?
You hear we've heard them.
Which party?
Beyond social media. You've heard some of them directly just attack with insult because of the decision to bring these in.
Can you give me instances so we can all...
I'm not going to mention anybody to you. I think that those things are really bad. We got to stop. I'm wondering why in our laws, if you insult a chief, it's a crime you can be punished for, but if you insult the president, you cannot be punished for it.
Samson.
And then the NDC guys too, on the other hand, also... insulting the clergy in such a manner, very, very bad.
Well, Samson, if you say that PPP officials have insulted the president on this matter, it hasn't come to my attention. You say you don't. Maybe after this program, let me know those who you heard use insulting language against the president on this matter, because I have not heard. And it's unfortunate that you say you don't want to mention names. But if we have the specific people, then we can ask them and, if possible, talk to them. But maybe after this show, you let me know. Sure. But of course, I mean, insult with the Christian Council thing. I heard them say that because when the president had said that it was on humanitarian grounds and so on, and they said that yes, you have to be compassionate, but it has to be done. It also has to be done with common sense. I thought it was a little strong. Okay, but having said that, for an official, a senior official of the NDC, to reply in the same vein was also unfortunate, because we are citizens. We are citizens. You are the government. So if citizens over some issue and they use words that are unsavory, I would expect that you let them know that, oh, well, you can disagree with the government and all of that, but using this kind of words and so on. But for Mr. Kokutu, he also jump in and say, well, because you've used this emotion.
Well, now maybe just hold on now. Just hold on.
The last point is that Mona was making some allusion as if somebody is talking on this matter on religious grounds.
Yes,
I have not I have not heard.
No, the bishops never did any religious
I
link.
never heard anybody say that they are not in favor of this resettlement because some people are Muslim.
That is right.
I've never heard anybody. So, Mona, if that's the impression you need to correct it.
If there is anything at all, it was the one who spoke for the chief imam that sought to bring in the religious connotation. Yes, I know.
This is the Minister for Tea.
Oh,
yes,
his boss was not fully briefed. But
no, hold on. Nana, you see, when you spoke, he allowed you to speak.
He hasn't spoken.
For how long now?
He hasn't spoken.
No, he's going to speak, and I'm going to beg of you to allow him the opportunity to also speak.
You see?
Yes.
I'm just making the comment that his boss was not fully briefed. So I wonder if he was asked for him there, because his boss who has to brief him.
Okay. Thank you very much. First, your reaction to the latter part of it, where the questions of religion came in and the attacks that have come in. Well, I have made my opinion known on the fact of the insult and trading of insult about all of these things. Starting in April or sometime from April, some of these things are going to be caught up in the NMC's new laws. For example, if you are doing a news and then you sought to share an opinion rather than do a straightforward news, you could be caught and then be sanctioned. You could pay about 36,000 Ghana cedis or upwards of 240,000 Ghana cedis.
Discussing a law that is
it's coming into force sometime in March. So we should get ready for that. It could be
as well be treated as the Freedom of Information Bill that is yet to see the day of light.
No, this is already in. You can't run away from it. So when you sit back as a Deputy Minister of Interior and you watch the discussion that has become religious and political, how do you feel yourself? That you did a poor job by not first going to the people and explaining to them that this is what we intended to do?
Yes, something I will explain. But to start with, let me stress that Christians and Muslims in Ghana have coexisted peacefully. I cannot remember that.
And the traditional. Yes.
Believers, those who believe in African traditional worship,
now you are talking.
they have coexisted very peacefully. It used to be the case at very important national events like Sif March. Libation would be poured, Muslim prayers would be said, as well as Christian prayers. We have not had a single instance, not that I remember, that the various religious groupings in this country took up arms or clashed or engaged in any serious confrontation. So we have to respect that and not allow ourselves to be dragged into any religious issues in this country. Now, having said that, something, it amazes me that the MPP and their spokesmen and women have taken this whole issue out of context and created a lot of misrepresentation, and even now they are trying to argue that what has happened is unconstitutional, it is illegal. What is the basis of these arguments? What is the basis?
He's pointed you to Article 75. He's pointed you to Section 35 of the regulation.
Section
35 of the...
Yes, I have the laws, Anti-Terrorism Act 2008. Yeah. I have those laws here to assist us in educating the public. But let me first start by saying that what the president did, and he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces.
Right.
And so the security of our country and the safety of the people, the good people of this country, is of paramount importance to him. He would be the last to take a decision that would hurt the security of this country. He has a singular responsibility to ensure that you and I, when we go to sleep, we are not threatened or that we don't become victims of terrorism. So we must understand from the outset that the president is not going to take any decision that wouldn't be in our national...
Wrong decisions, unintended.
Well, having said that, we're asking, they have posed the question that what is the source of authority of the president to have initiated that move in the first place?
Right.
And that it is an agreement within the meaning of Article 75. That argument amazes me. And the good thing is,
explain.
Nanado, who is a lawyer, has also waded into this whole argument and believes that there is an infraction so far as Article 75 is concerned. But what is the wording in Article? I will come to that. What is the wording in Article 75? It's here, it's very clear. The president may execute or cause to be executed treaties, agreements, or conventions in the name of Ghana.
May.
2. May a treaty, agreement, or convention executed by or under the authority of the president shall be ratification by A, Act of Parliament, or B, a resolution of Parliament supported by the votes of more than 1/2 of all the members of Parliament. Now, something, what the president did is neither an agreement nor a convention within the meaning of this article. Let me state categorically that what the president did is in the nature of an executive decision, an executive order. And executive orders are known to our constitutional history and law. Something.
Executive orders can go against the
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Nana, please.
But we're trying to understand.
Nana, please. No,
wait a minute.
Take it easy.
And so the point I'm making is that our president did not sign any agreement with the United States. What the United States did was to make a request that 2 ex-detainees of Guantanamo Bay be in this country. The president did his evaluation and consultations and came to the conclusion that hosting the 2 ex-detainees in this country will not result in any security breaches. So he made an executive decision, an executive order, which is permissible under constitutional law and practice.
Where is the constitution?
Samson, you have studied constitutional law. And you know very well the case in Youngstown Sheet and Company versus Sawyer, where the president made an executive decision. It was an executive order that steel companies in the U.S. be brought under federal control. But you see, that particular order violated, federal law in the U.S. And so the issue was contested, and the court said, no, that executive order was in violation of certain existing laws. Now, they have made reference to Article 75, but Article 75 is clear. What is envisaged under that article is that the president ought to have signed or executed. And I'm saying that, can any of them lay hands or produce a copy of an agreement executed by His Excellency President Mahama and did not take it to Parliament for ratification or for Parliament to pass a resolution? Have they got any such agreement, treaty, or convention executed? Execution is a positive act.
I have a question.
Wait a minute.
On this particular
And so, Samson, the point I'm making is that executive decisions were taken. Those decisions are not in violation of any law. Contrary to their views, the executive decisions taken by the president have some foundation in the law. The very act they seek to rely upon, the Anti-Terrorism Act 2000, Act 762, is even the source of authority for the president. Because what does it say? It says power to prevent entry and order the removal of persons. And that falls squarely under the functions we perform at the Ministry of the Interior. It says, something with your permission, 35, the Director of Immigration or an officer authorized by the Director shall not grant an endorsement or authority to permit a person to enter this country if there are reasonable grounds to suspect that the person is, will, or has been involved in the commission of a terrorist act. And this is the provision they have invoked to support their argument that the president has violated the laws of this country. Now, Samson, what is reasonable? Reasonable grounds. Binatef and Al-Dubi were captured by the U.S., detained for 14 good years, without a charge, without trial. Not even a charge of terrorism was slapped on them by the authorities of the U.S. the Attorney General just didn't have any scintilla of evidence with which to press charges against them. And after 14 years, anybody can argue that there are reasonable grounds to suspect that they must have committed terrorist acts or will commit acts of terrorism.
You see, I'm tired referring to the reports of the Joint Committee of Guantanamo Bay, but this government has acknowledged that these guys are of low risk, just as the U.S. represents to us. Low risk of what?
Yes. Samson, listen, some assessments were made. The first was in 2006, 2007. That assessment said they were of high risk.
Yes.
But there was still no credible evidence to prosecute. So that was a suspicion that did not have legs to stand on. And so they couldn't press charges against these two individuals. Subsequently, in 2009, 2010, another risk assessment was done. And that risk assessment clearly repudiated what happened in 2006, 2007. And to now say, okay, they are of what?
Low risk.
Low risk. But what would you expect from the authorities of Guantanamo Bay after keeping them in detention for 14 years?
As a government of Ghana, you have no suspicion of them. You have no reasonable grounds to suspect them that they could do anything. And yet, you put them almost under detention.
They are
going to be 24/7. They are going to be under surveillance by the security of this country.
Yes.
They are living with national security. Yes. And we are told that should serve as a comfort to us, as assurance that they will not do anything wrong. So what reasonability or reasonable grounds else, what else are we expecting would have helped to constitute a ground for the exercise of Section 35?
Yes, the point I'm making is...
Also, after 2017, what is going to happen to them?
No, they have the right to go or not to go.
Yes. Something the test here is reasonable grounds. And we're saying that the reasonable grounds test should be gleaned from over the 14 years detention without even a charge, not to talk of trial. Something what happens under Article 14 of our own Constitution when somebody is detained, unreasonably for a long period of time without trial. You see, without reasonable grounds. What happens? Under Article 14 of our Constitution, the rights of the person held in detention is immediately upheld. He is either released unconditionally or released on certain terms. Granted bail, right? Or released altogether. Now, the point we're making is that after 14 years, no charge, the Attorney General of the United States could not slap a charge on these two individuals. Okay, and so what else can be reasonable?
The point again for government is
how can anybody hold reasonable suspicion against them in those circumstances? Okay. And so we are saying that the Director Immigration did all the assessments, he did all the evaluations, and on reasonable grounds did not suspect that the two have committed the government and by extension the president, terrorism in this country.
And by extension the president and the Director of Immigration and the Interior Ministry does not believe in the report that states without any equivocation that has been involved in acts of terrorism. The foreign minister, we understand, describes them as mere foot soldiers in Al-Qaeda.
That report has been repudiated.
Has been repudiated, okay.
By the subsequent report.
Now I understand where you're coming from.
Let me make that point very clear.
But the repudiation absolves them according to this law. This law says if you are suspected of the fact that you have, you will, or you have ever been. So will there be a repudiation if you have ever been suspected?
If you have ever been reasonably suspected, and I'm saying that all the suspicions of the United States that Bin Laden and Al-Dubi may have committed acts of terrorism were unreasonable. Okay. And that is why for 14 good years of their detention, they couldn't even press a single charge against them. Okay. Therein lies the unreasonableness of their detention.
Okay.
And so we in Ghana, the Director of Immigration, they have any suspicion that they can commit or have committed or will commit acts of terrorism in this country. And you see, that is the source of authority for the president's executive decision. Remember the authority I cited, Youngstown Sheet and Company versus Sawyer, right? There was an infraction, a breach of federal law when the president decided to bring all steel companies under federal control. But in this particular instance, the president's executive decision even has legs to stand on. In Article 35 of the Anti-Terrorism Act that they have cited to buttress their argument.
Have also been asked, and I think Nana Konadu Ajman-Rawlings, former First Lady, is also reported to have echoed that question, that have you ever heard that a terrorist, so to speak, was put before any court, tried and convicted before whatever sentence was meted out to them?
PKK, the Ojalan. And so maybe Nana Konadu, with the greatest respect, has not adverted her mind to
Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden.
No, even Ojalan. Ojalan is serving a life sentence in Turkish jail.
Okay.
He was arrested captured by the Turkish military. You know, he formed the PKK to fight for the rights of the Kurdish people.
Okay, so that's your answer.
He's languishing in jail.
Yeah, that's your answer to that. The question again is, after 2 years, can you compel them to leave this country?
After 2 years, I think that the executive decision of the president is that we would only host them for 2 years. And so after 2 years, the two are at liberty to go to any part of the world.
They are at liberty to decide to leave or not to leave.
So after 2 years, I said the president took an executive decision, which is permissible in law. And I have cited instances where presidents can make executive decisions.
Well,
let me give you an example.
The Supreme Court will deal with that. We'll get to know.
Let me give you an example. Recently, President Obama in the US issued executive orders in relation to gun control. He didn't have to go to Congress. You know why? Because it falls within the purview of his functions. As an executive president, we practice the same system in this country.
We're talking about an international process. This is not an internal issue.
It doesn't matter. Executive orders are applicable even in relation to the conduct of our international relations.
What do you say to those who say, if that is the power that the president wields, then we are all in danger at the discretion of the president? He can do anything.
No.
His discretion,
like I said,
his discretion ought to be subject to the Constitution.
Like I said, the president's ability to exercise or issue executive orders must not be in conflict with a law, with the Constitution. And I have demonstrated that the provision they have invoked to support their argument
the director of immigrations did the assessment.
I can say that for a fact.
There was no reasonable grounds
at all. And I'm saying that the provision they have also invoked in the Constitution is inapplicable because the president did not execute any agreement.
There are some people in court who are seeking to get something on that about that. Let's see how that one goes, because they are seeking to eventually also seek to compel the Interior Minister, to deport them, because subsection 2 of what you just read says that if they have found themselves into the country without us preventing them entry, then the Interior Minister, if he is of the belief that they have been involved in acts of terrorism or there are potential for any acts of terrorism, he should make an order for them to be deported.
You are a lawyer.
Right. I think we should move on.
Okay, you are a lawyer. The 2 says where the minister responsible for interior also has reasonable grounds to believe that a person in this country. The statement was made by Nana Kumia that the minister for the interior said he wasn't briefed. I think I have spoken to this issue before. That my minister was not in the country. I represented him, and we were fully briefed. I sat in meetings, we deliberated exhaustively on the issues. So when he came in, we would excuse him because he was not in the country. I may have briefed him.
And you didn't brief him?
I may have briefed him. But you see, it is different to sit in a meeting, deliberate on the issues, and to receive information from a secondary source.
You see, we are made to clearly understand
not in town.
That the arrangement is that, the agreement is that they will be here, the U.S. is responsible for their feeding and everything else, and that after 2 years, they can go, right? And you say there's no paper.
No.
There's no paper to that effect.
It's
an executive decision.
Do you understand what I'm trying to bring to your attention? That when the 2 years have come to pass,
yes,
how you can do anything with them? You don't have anything.
All foreigners who reside in this country, and so their permit to be in this country, their visa,
yes,
it's not above 2 years.
Right.
After 2 years, if you don't have a visa to live in this country, the director of immigration has a duty. His duty bound under the Immigration Act 2000 to get you out of the country.
Okay, so when it comes to that paper, they have that. It is the agreement for 2 years that we don't have on paper.
No. Okay. Everything about their admission into this country is not in the form of an agreement executed within the meaning of Article 75.
But they have documentation covering their stay.
Yes, as in visa, permit, yes. Yes, the immigration took them through all the processes.
And after 2 years...
And I can confirm this because...
After 2 years, the immigration is not minded to renew it.
No.
Okay.
If the president issues an executive directive that it should be renewed, fine. But if it doesn't, the order now is that we are admitting them for 2 years.
Okay.
After 2 years...
Well, okay, there are those who are also saying that you have to be careful how you treat them because you may be in trouble. Because now that you are here, they are human beings and they are subject to enjoy all the human rights that your constitution provides in Article Chapters 5 of the Constitution. Now, how many? Let me give you a minute. What do you have to say?
Well, obviously, the Director of Immigration is much better briefed than the Minister for Interior, because the Director of Immigration, we have been told, has decided that there are no reasonable grounds to...
He has decided?
Them. Yes, that's what you told us.
I have not, no, please. I have not said that.
So what did you say?
I said he has not got reasonable grounds
to suspect.
Please.
Okay. Right.
But obviously, what the Minister for Interior says that he hasn't been fully briefed.
No, I've explained that.
The director is better briefed. But you see, this
no. Nana, that
you don't like it.
Don't mislead the public.
But the Director of Immigration is under the Minister
of Interior.
I'll give you just a minute.
Now, we are being told that the people, there has been no charge, there's no credible evidence against them, there's only suspicion with no legs. So obviously, the Americans, the American Congress, the American House of Representatives, the Senate, they are all wrong in the decision they took. That there's actually no reasonable grounds to suspect these people of being engaged in terrorism. So the Americans are wrong, and Ghana is right. Now, Article 75.
Sure.
We are being told that there's no agreement. There's no, nothing has been executed. Execution is something in writing. So what are we being told?
I'll give you also 1 minute.
Now we have...
so make a straight point and let's move on.
He keeps interrupting.
Okay.
Now this business about the people, there's no evidence, there's no court, they are kosher people. So why are we detaining them for 2 years? Why is their own country not accepting them? Why is Saudi Arabia, where they grew up and have friends, not accepting them?
Okay.
It's only Ghana,
right?
Which knows that
they respond to this one?
All right. Once again, and then you did mention Nanado and referred him as a lawyer and referred him to his quote unquote reference to Article 75. He himself to
Section.
The Anti-Terrorism Act. He didn't mention.
I've argued.
He didn't mention, yes, you have argued on that. He didn't mention the Constitution, so
well.
I want us to make that clear. Now, quickly, 1 minute.
Samson, where you and I come from, they say that when an elder baths, it means the water is finished. And they also say that in the midst of people, when the elder farts, it is put on the youngest. In this particular instance, the president has spoken and given a position. The appointees of the president come publicly to say, we are not informed of this. I think that it is a case where the elder farts in the public and they say you are the one, and you say no, it is the elder who farts.
And let's also be careful. They didn't come to say we are not informed.
Hannah
Tete said it got to a point where it became national security, so she had excused. And then Mark Oyongo too speaks about the fact that he was not, he didn't have all the full facts. Let's state it as it is. That's my job. I'm supposed to moderate the show.
It is important to state it the way you have stated. But why? all these things go to endorse the fact that, look, they are distancing themselves from the number one person and saying that if there is a blame, because the Minister for Interior says that he was not fully apprised, the Minister for Foreign Affairs that are left at a certain point, but the President will not leave at any point. Even if he's not there, he will fully be briefed. And so they are saying that everything stops with the President and that they should be taken out of whatever fallout will come out of this. And I think that it is something that all of us should be worried about, that it's getting to a point where people are running away from responsibility and they have been put in charge of responsibility.
Well, okay. It won't be long. 2 years will come. If the Supreme Court does not pronounce that they should be deported, we shall be here in this country, God willing, find out where our government shall send the two.
I thought you were asking why they are under
from the
detention
indications that the Deputy Interior Minister gives. From the indications that the Deputy Interior Minister gives, their stay may not be renewed after 2 years, and they would have to go anywhere they choose. Will they choose to go anywhere? When we get there, I'm sure that
we'll be here.
Thankfully, we'll be here.
We'll be here.
Right, thank you very much. This show has been by the kindest sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, welcome to the new world. Sasso Spray, fresh and powerful. Star Assurance, creating smiles since 1985. Lipton Tea, your #1 tea brand. And Cowbell, that is the way to smile and have a sunshine day. Cowbell Coffee, I mean. Thank you very much. My guests have been James Agalga, Deputy Interior Minister, and MP Nana Akuma, Communications Director of the New Patriotic Party, Bernard Mona. He is the Chairman of the PNC. I am Samson Ayenini. My outfit, as always, is provided by Latida. Have a good afternoon.